Alright, let's get this show on the road, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome back to Prospects eRacing League, as we are here for the PlayStation Tier 3 division for Round 7 at the Chinese Grand Prix. We are here at the Shanghai International Circuit. Commentators myself, Just Gaming, and as always, nowadays, coming a regular now, we have Chappers. How you doing, Chappers?
Doing very well, thank you. Very happy to be here, and I'm really looking forward to this Tier 3 race we've got in store for you today.
Honestly, I am excited as well. We have people watching from all over the world. Currently, 15 drivers out in the lobby. We're waiting on 2 more, I do believe. And we're going to be here at Shanghai. So, a very difficult track. A lot of drivers actually don't entirely love the track, like racing on it in the Formula 1 game, as it's very difficult to try and get around. But you've actually raced at this track, I do believe, Chappers, reserving for Tier 1. How did that go for you?
It was interesting. It was, got kind of put in the deep end on my debut, but it was good fun. Really enjoyed it. I'm so at this track, so it was a bit of a challenge coming in such a strong field of drivers. A track I'm not a big fan of, but I held my own and I brought home some points, which I was extremely happy with because that was the goal.
Well, that's the main thing that we always aim as a driver. Of course, I don't really drive that much. The last time I actually raced was last week at the Dutch Grand Prix, and actually the Dutch Grand Prix was actually a pretty eventful race for tier 1 and 2, actually, Chappers. Tier 3 was actually quite peaceful actually in Tier 3. And if you guys did miss out on all of those races, please make your way to last week, as there was actually a little bit of a controversial moment actually during the race, Chappers, if you do remember. There was actually the controversial incident between Mason and Chaos Druid when it was a virtual safety car, and Chaos Druid slamming on the brakes, actually completely taking out Mason. Do you remember that actually?
I do. I've come to think about it. I do remember it. It was certainly an interesting situation that went on there. It was I was actually watching Mason at the time when it happened, and it was unexpected. But yeah, let's just see what will happen today, and hopefully things like that won't happen at today's race.
Well, let's actually introduce everyone. So we have Space Cowboy in the chat. We have Mason as well as Panda Man as well. I'm trying to exactly remember. Oh, and there's, of course, Mondi as well in the chat. Welcome, everybody. And let's actually give these drivers and these viewers back at home a brief description about where we are here today. So, ladies and gentlemen, for Round 7 of PlayStation Tier 3, we are here at the Shanghai International Circuit, where the first ever Grand Prix was actually back in 2004, so kind of a newer track, you would say, to the overall Formula 1 calendar, where we're looking around a 5.4 kilometer track. And it's a very, very difficult track. High elevation changes, bumpy roads, and it's very difficult. But these drivers have done their homework. They've done the work in the background, and they are trying here today to get as many points as possible. 16 corners make up the Shanghai circuit with 2 DRS zones. The first one is the long straight at the bottom of the track on turn 13 as you make your way down towards turn 14, and then the second DRS zone on the finishing straight after the final corner of turn 16 along the finish line towards the very difficult and very easy to oversteer turn 1. But the one thing about this track that a lot of people actually don't entirely know is that we actually haven't really seen the Chinese Grand Prix in the calendar for quite some time, since 2019, which I do believe was the last event that we've had here at Shanghai. And that's just mainly because of the COVID-19 pandemic. They couldn't really get out there on the track, but the contract so far has been renewed since 2025, or at least it's been in the talks about being renewed since 2025. So it's going to be a little bit difficult, but let's actually see what the circuit is like. So the circuit is a bit of pleasing if you're watching it from a helicopter from up above in the air, where it's actually designed to look like the Chinese symbol for Shang, meaning upwards, which is equally pleasing to the drivers on terra firma as well, where there's a unique start on the lap as the drivers fly into the ever-tightening turns of turn 1 and 2 before the dart left through turn 3 and 4. The super high G-force turns of turn 7 and 8, those S's very easy to lose the car and are loved by the drivers as they use all of their strength, all of their might to hold on to the car as they make their way through. We're going to go on board with Mark 7 God as he is making his way up out of the pit lane into turn 2 and 3. Let's see, and there's also, of course, while the circuit also features one of the longest straights on the calendar with a 1.2 kilometer stretch that separates turns 13 and 14 as well. A lot of overtaking opportunities we are going to be witnessing here, chappers.
We are indeed, and also I've just noticed that the drivers are reporting that it is going to be a wet race, and it's expected rain for 30 minutes during the race from the start. So that's a little heads up for everybody watching at home that it looks like it's going to be a wet race.
Yeah, I mean, we can actually see it just from above, actually, as we're on board with Mark 7 God right now. You guys can see the clouds are starting to come in here at Shanghai, and that's actually going to make it even more difficult for these drivers. This track is known as one of the most oversteery tracks on the calendar, and now with a wet race, I almost got my R's and W's mixed up as always, but a wet race is going to make it even more oversteer. It's going to make it easier and more prone to all of the drivers to slip up on the track and get crashed out, and we could be potentially seeing quite a bit of safety cars here today. We actually didn't really see any in tier 2 and tier 1, so I mean anything's in the air at this point, chappers.
It is, it's all to play for really. I think some of the drivers are going to want to try and get as high up the grid as possible really, because the different weather conditions will just change everything, so it's going to be an interesting one where we see the drivers come. I think it is going to stay cloudy for the qualifying section, but then the rain is going to fall over the track for the race.
Well, one person that we're staying on board with is Mark 7 God, as he was able to finish the outlap first on the track, matching the helmet with the Aston Martin green as he now enters Sector 2. And this is what we were talking about earlier, chappers. These long, sweeping, G-force intensifying turns 7 and 8, where these drivers are going to be going up against the limit, going against the car limit as well, as they just chuck that Formula 1 car into all of these corners, and as Mark 7 God presents perfectly, able to stay within track limits, which is actually pretty difficult here, especially with turns 9 and 10, that double apex with left-hander, right after those S's, your tire's going to be screaming out with the heat.
Oh. Yeah.
So it's very easy to slip, trying to get everything sorted, and it's actually very, very intensive situations here tonight.
Yep, the corner you saw, for the long back straight that you just saw Mark 7 God go around is so slippery. You can just, if you get the wrong line or you turn the wheel a bit too much, that back end will step out and you will spin. So that is an incredibly hard corner, but if you can nail it on a qualifying lap, you gain a lot of time coming out of it because you get a nice run onto the back straight.
Well, one person that we just crossed the line first is actually going to be Mark 7 God, setting the standard at 133.495. But Light Sessa, the first driver to actually beat that time, the second driver to finish on the lap with the 132.8. We also saw Bubbers with the 133.2 as well. And as time goes on, there's going to be more rubber being applied to the track. We're going to be seeing some quicker and quicker and quicker times as, well, time goes on practically. So we could be seeing some 131s potentially here tonight, maybe a 131.9, but I might be overestimating it. We are in tier 3, and these drivers always put on a good show for us, and this is going to be very difficult. And one track actually that a lot of people compare this track to, which kind of surprises me in a way, but I understand when it comes to the setup of the car. A lot of the drivers actually use kind of a Bahrain-esque sort of setup actually, which actually surprised me a little bit. But if you look at the layout of the track, you kind of see the similarities between Shanghai and Bahrain. Sweeping corners, the S's in right here 7 and 8 like we have in Bahrain turns 6 and 7. You have tight corners, downhill descents that really make those front tires work, as we have turns 1, 2, and 3. Almost the same damage as turn 9 and 10 at Bahrain. So a lot of similarities with this track, so you kind of understand it, but it's just something about this track just makes it so more difficult. And it's like you said, it's just how like dusty and how difficult the track is just to keep the car planted on the ground.
It is, yeah. Most of the track, as you can see from the track map, is Justin said, is very sweeping. There's a lot of corners on there that's very sweeping corners. So you'll get some drivers that will have kind of the high downforce, running quite high wings to benefit them in the majority of the track. But that does sacrifice a bit of straight line speed on that long back straight. So there'll be some drivers that will go for more downforce, and there'll be other drivers that will choose not to do that. To try and gain an advantage on those that are doing the high downforce on that back straight, because they will have a little bit more straight line speed if they're running if they're running lower wings.
But the one thing as well about this track that that kind of compares it to a lot of tracks in the current Formula One calendar is that this track is a serious rubber eater. These soft tires, you'll be lucky to make it into the double digits. Maybe even lucky to get to the 8th lap on these set of softs. But of course, with the temperatures being a little bit cooler, actually, it's going to help manage with the tire temps. But we could definitely, and especially with the wet race, we could definitely see maybe a 2-stop happening today.
Yeah, when I raced on Monday, I started on the softs because it was my debut, and I kind of wanted to see where I would stand on the soft tires, and I knew that the soft tyres, they wouldn't last more than really maximum 7 laps really, because the tyres just, they shred here, especially those softs. But yeah, the softs aren't that pleasant here, let's be real. When they get a little bit worn, they're not ideal to be on.
No, not at all. That's why a lot of people would go with a one-stop if it's a full dry race. Start on the mediums or start on the hards and then swap to the other compound. And a lot of drivers actually don't even touch the red compounds, only in qualifying actually, which makes it a bit different. But you kind of compare it with tracks like Paul Ricard for the French Grand Prix. It's the same concept. Those softs struggle a lot. And usually everyone goes with the mediums or the hards to help manage with the raising tire temps. But I'm actually going to stay on board right now with Villeneuve and the Aston Martin purple sector 1 and a purple sector 2 here, as he's now coming down the 1.2 kilometer straight up towards turn 14 with the DRS as well. Let's see what time Villeneuve can do. He currently sets a 1:44.8 for the time being as he locks up into turn 14. We could be seeing that a lot as time goes on. But Villeneuve now coming around the final corner, gets perfectly within the track limits, sprints towards the timing line, and just loses out to his teammate of Mark 7 God by a 10th. But still a very comfortable 6th with a 133.481 as well. And I just gotta say, gotta love the support. 12 people watching back at home. I want to welcome everybody from watching around the world. If you're on the track or just having a good time watching the race, want to welcome everybody as well. So, love to have you all. I'd love to have you all as always. Oh.
And also, while we are in the qualifying session, I will tell you guys the driver standings at the moment coming into this round. So the driver standings after round 6, it is PLR Craigie in the lead with 86 points, with Qatarman Khan on 75 points, with Andrew Monster in third with 62 points. And then it's Voice of Chris in fourth with 49 points, and then the top, then from 4th to 8th in the championship is only separated by 7 points. So that little battle there for 4th position in this championship is very close. And that involves Voice of Chris, Bubbers, Pandaman, Kevo, and T De Silva, who isn't here today, unfortunately. It's Spectra who's in his car for today at the moment, so that will affect T De Silva's fight for that 4th position in the championship at the moment. But with a few rounds to go, I'm pretty sure he'll be able to bounce back with a good result if he can get one.
Yeah, it's going to be very close down to the wire as we are near the end of the season. Of course, with F1 22 actually, it's not 2022, it's just F1 22. Right around the corner, June 28th is going to be the expected release date, and I've done my pre-order, so I'll be having a little bit of extra pit coins to design my what's called my driver for the F1 the new F1 Life aspect of the game, and I think that's actually going to be pretty cool actually. We haven't really seen that with a Formula 1 game, have we?
No, we haven't. It's just literally been the Formula One cars and the F2 cars, and then some of them the old school Formula One cars. But it's gonna be interesting to be able to drive. Like I think you got a McLaren 720S, a Ferrari I think as well. The safety cars you can drive as well. It's a cool little feature. It'll be fun to do races like that with friends. But yeah, it's a cool little feature, and I think it will benefit the game a little bit, but I think the novelty of that will wear off quite quickly with a lot of people.
Oh yeah,
It's cool. It's a cool little feature.
Oh, and actually, as we are on board with Light Sessa, who was actually getting a purple Sector 1 and was just entering Sector 2 and did an exceptional time. They had a little bit of a hiccup through turn 6 and 7 and 8, but now coming up towards turn 11 and 12, had a little bit of a hiccup, took too much of the curb, and he spins off into the gravel. But one thing that actually makes this track a little bit unique is that you have a lot of overtaking opportunities, not only on this track, but also in the pit lane. If you do remember in the real life season of Formula One, like a few years ago, Sebastian Vettel actually making a double overtake on the pit entrance, where we actually also saw at the time youngster Lewis Hamilton actually break a little bit too late into this this pit entrance, and there was actually a gravel pit there, and he actually got the car stuck in the gravel before going into the pit lane, and he was begging the marshals to push him, but they just couldn't. He was just stuck in the gravel. So not only on the track could we actually see potentially mistakes, but also in the pit lane, where we could be seeing some questionable, at best questionable moments, as we just saw Monster cross the line up to P2, taking it by Mark 7 God by 0.02 of a second. So these close margins, not just in the constructors and drivers championship, but also on the racetrack chappers, and that's why I think tier 3 is actually one of the most loved divisions here in Prospects.
Yeah, it is certainly. It's so close, and it's great to see these guys as well racing, and makes up for some great racing as well.
Well, let's see if anyone's gonna be who's gonna be the one to come out on top. I actually saw in the chat earlier saying, who do you think is gonna win? I don't know, Bingram. I really have no idea. Of course, Bingram promoted from tier 2 to tier 1 in the PlayStation of Prospects. I actually remember, fun fact actually about Bingram, I actually remember doing a Academy commentary for the man, and I was saying, yeah, he's a tier 1 driver. They put him in tier 2 just to see what he would match up against them, and he was just dominating. So they actually mid-season promoted him up to Division 1, and he's actually giving the top runners quite a run for their money. And you've raced with him, actually, I do believe, Chappers. So you actually see what it's like in Division 1, where I can never get over there again.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's such a completely different playing field to what I've been kind of used to. What I'm used to is still extremely fast, but that's just a whole new kind of different level. The tier 1 guys, they're so consistent, they just don't make mistakes, and it's like kind of you run wide in like one's like corner and you just lose tenths, and that can mean one position. It's crazy. So it's a definite learning curve, and I do hope I can get back out on track with the guys again soon, because I had a lot of fun. It's if I can get out there a little bit more often, it will definitely develop me as a driver as well, and I feel like I can hopefully be able to compete a little bit more. But in my first race, I kind of just wanted to get across that line and just bring the car home, and not kind of get in anyone's way, because I don't want to put a bad name on myself on my debut. I want to keep everything quite clean, as I always intend to do, and just kind of not impede anyone. So.
Exactly. That's what we actually kind of strive here, is just clean racing, like very close racing as well, but also respect, and that is one thing that we strive here at Prospects, and I think this is one of the greatest leagues, to be honest with you. I do commentary for a lot of leagues, and I gotta say, this is my favorite, and I know, and like I've actually told the other leagues this, and they're like, yeah, it's understandable. They've actually seen the content here, but we're actually gonna go on board with PBE Vintage, as he's now had a purple sector 1, a purple sector 2, just misses the apex on the exit of the final corner as he takes the sprint, and he's gonna move up into P9 into the top 10. putting his teammate of Mason down into P11. But you can actually see how close some of these times are. If you look on the grid, Monster and Mark 7 God separated, I thought it was 2/10 actually. Yeah, oh, 2,000s. Yeah, 2,000ths of a second. Then we have Mason and Panaman Gaming, also another 2,000ths of a second. We see Craigie and Villeneuve around 8,000ths of a second. Dalmore and Bubbers 200ths, and these are like toenail distances practically, maybe even hair follicle distances. It is so close.
It is so close. Monster's just gone out now on an out lap, so he's having one last little shot at it. So let's see what he can do. He's just coming out of the first sector now on his out lap. So
well, we're gonna keep a close eye on him.
That pole.
We're gonna keep a close eye on him, but one person I actually... Oh, look at that from Panaman Gaming! 132.541 for the Williams driver as he takes pole position off of Light Sesso. And Light Sesso takes it right back after! 132.4 for Light Sesso as he responds like just like a snap practically. But Qatarman Khan as well, up 5/10. 5.2 tenths coming into sector 3. So from what it looks like right now, he could be taking pole position away from Light Sesso, and in the dying moments of qualifying with less than a minute left, Qatarman Khan could be taking it now. Craigie was able to take it off of Light Sesso. Let's see what Qatarman Khan, how he can respond to it as he sprints towards the timing line, and it's a 131.9 from Qatarman Khan, breaking into the 132 second barriers. Absolutely extraordinary. And I actually said that we could be seeing a 131.9, and Qatarman Khan is the one to bring it in the dying moments of qualifying. What an absolute lap, son.
That was a great lap from Qatarman Khan. Really, really impressive there. So far ahead of the field. 0.4 really quicker than Craigie, which is in second, which is crazy.
Absolutely extraordinary times there, and you can actually see how close the grid is. We actually see Villeneuve, Mason, and Vintage with very close times. All three of them are separated by 400ths of a second. You can also see Light Sesso and Panda within a tenth. You can actually see, as I said before, Monster and Mark 7 God separated by 2,000ths of a second, as Dalmore has actually crashed out around turn 13. And I'm going to be honest with you, with this track in the history in League Racing, I thought we would have seen a crash on that corner a lot earlier in qualifying.
No. Monster just invalidated his lap time, and he's 0.4 up, and he's just invalidated his lap time, unfortunately. There.
Oh wow, that could have been a second row position there.
Yeah, it would have been. Artistic was just in front of him, and Artistic moved over, and I think that may have put Monster off slightly, which is nothing on Artistic. So it's just what can happen when you're on the track and you're on a hot lap, and someone else in front of you is kind of on their cooldown lap. You can just take your eye off for a split second and run that a little bit wide, and that can just invalidate your lap. So unfortunate there for Monster. Hopefully he's kept his foot down so we could actually see his full potential of the lap, and he seems to have gotten the last corner done pretty nicely, and that would have been a 132.568, so that would have moved him up to P5.
Well, he's starting at P6, so he still has a very good position to start off with. But now Chaos Druid has invalidated around the final corner as well, as he was the last driver to finish. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for qualifying. Qatarman Khan breaking through the 132 second barrier with a 131.9, with lines up on the front row with the championship leader of Craigie, Light Sesso and Panaman Gaming lining up on that second row. Amazing stuff there with Bubbers and Monster in that third row, and you can actually see that the tires that they'll be using, everyone of that top 10 on the set of softs except for Villeneuve on the mediums. But as we said before, it doesn't really matter. We might have a wet race start here today, and which means we could be seeing a lot of mayhem, as Natty says in the chat. I love moist tracks.
Hello.
I don't know about that one. But still, what an extraordinary time in qualifying that we have witnessed to. A 131.9 in Tier 3. It just shows that all of the tiers throughout the seasons here in Prospects have just improved season after season, race after race, practice session after practice session, as these guys just impress everyone back at home as well. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, so I believe the drivers have told us at the start of qualifying that it is a wet race from the get-go and is expected to stay for 30 minutes of the race. To keep raining, I believe, is what we have been told. So maybe it will dry up towards the end and they'll be able to hop onto the slicks, but we'll see. We'll probably get word from the drivers when the weather map comes up for them on the grid.
Well, we're gonna have to wait and see. But I'm gonna say again, guys, welcome back. If you guys are just queuing in, as we have 21 people watching back at home, welcome back to Prospect now 22. Welcome to Prospects eRacing League here for PlayStation Tier 3 Round 7 here at China for the Shanghai International Circuit. As we are here with a wet start, I'm looking in Baguette's garage, and we can see the green compounds. It's going to be intermediate wet start here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And again, if you guys are interested and see yourself coming back from time to time, please hit that subscribe button and make sure the notification bell is on so you're notified every time we go live here for a Prospects race from Sundays all the way down till Fridays once the Gran Turismo League comes up and running. We have tiers 1, 2, 3 in PlayStation and PC from Mondays to Wednesdays. We have Xbox in Tier 1 on Thursdays, and the PlayStation Academy on Fridays. So please stay tuned into that. And if you guys are enjoying the content, you guys are enjoying the commentary, and you have any suggestions to us, leave it in the comments. But also hit that like button so we know that you guys are enjoying it as well. We just want to get those numbers up. But now with 5 seconds left on the clock, we are going to be here for a wet start. But of course, as always, formation lap to see how these drivers are going to warm up these tires in these cold, wet conditions.
Yeah, but it's going to be an interesting one as they now start their formation lap in the pouring down rain at Shanghai. See, one of the Alpines, they're getting a little bit slidey off the start there. I believe that is that Light Sesso?
Yep, it's Light Sesso.
It was Light Sesso. So they're the only Alpine in today's race. Got a little bit squirrely there off the start on that formation lap, so expect some drivers to be a bit tentative across the line because this track is a bit slippy anyway, let alone when it's a wet race. So this is going to be very challenging. I'm quite glad I'm sat in the commentary box right now instead of being out on track.
Yeah, honestly, same here. It's gonna be it's gonna be such an extraordinary race. But as we have the formation lap, a little bit of fun facts actually. If you guys didn't know, with the new Formula 1 22 game, at least from what I've seen from the offline mode, I'm not too sure if it will actually be transitioned to online. But a lot of changes has actually happened to the game to where it actually makes the drivers a little bit more like immersed into the Formula 1 race, where you can actually time when you turn the car into the pit lane. You can actually line up the car on the starting grid, which is going to be absolutely interesting to see. But here tonight, actually, chappers, one thing that these drivers actually have to really focus on, that I hope they've done their homework and saw that it was going to be a wet race. Do these drivers actually have a wet setup on? From what it looks like, I think a lot of these drivers might have actually forgotten about it and stayed on the dry setup. So just adjusting that front wing, maybe adjusting the transmission differential, maybe even the tire pressures could have helped out. But I'm not too sure what the plan is here tonight.
It's an interesting one really. I run quite high rings. I think I was car felt quite stable, so I think my setup I have for here would work. Seems to work fairly well in the wet. So I think the guys with the higher downforce may potentially have the upper hand here, but some drivers may have gone for the wet setup, which would have hindered their qualifying, but it will now help them in the race. So we'll probably tell which drivers could maybe be on that wet setup or those on that dry. But it may be hard to tell yet. We're not too sure until we kind of get underway as all the drivers line up on the grid now, I believe.
Yep, and
Chaos Druid and who was it? One of the Ferraris is
Spectrev.
Oh, sorry, it was Kevo and Spectrev. My apologies there.
No.
That are disqualified from that.
Yep,
So
maybe a little bit of a collision there.
Going to be a bit cold and that's not
they're going to be using
great.
Icebox. They're going to be Flintstoning their way down towards turn 1. But all
They
eyes
are.
on this man right here, Craigie. Can he get another race win here tonight to push himself even further for the Drivers' Championship? We're going to have to wait and see, as we now have 5 red lights to kick things off. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The engines are roaring. The crowd is practically drowning in this point. But away we are for the Chinese Grand Prix, here for Tier 3, sorry, of PlayStation, as we see Light Says So with an amazing start. And Panaman actually with a better start though on the inside. He's looking for the move as they make their way up towards turn 1. I actually also saw Mellow Space actually had a pretty good start on his end as well, as he now comes around the outside of Mark 7 God. We're looking 3 wide here actually. Look at the pile of cars here between Mason, Monster, Domore, as Domore and Mason have have a little bit of a collision there. Monster brakes super late there, mistimes the braking zone absolutely horrifically, and rejoins back in P6, now up to P5 on the inside of Domore. That might go down as a legal overtake, but so far it looks clean from the game's regulations.
Yeah, I think the game has kept it. I'm not too sure, to be fair. I did have one of the drivers do that in the Tier 1 race, and he did get to overtake me, and nothing really happened, so I think we'll count that as being legal, but I'm sure the Shivers will decide afterwards, but we'll see. But yeah, Monster has moved up 1 position on this first lap of the race, and he has already gapped Domore. Domore has a bit of a moment there coming onto the long right-hander before the back straight.
Yeah, turn 13, especially in these wet conditions, can really catch out the drivers out tonight. But you gotta say that the people watching the grandstands here at turn 14 and 15 have the best view of a lot of overtakes. We could be seeing some Daniel Ricciardo late braking, as we saw in 2018 against Valtteri Bottas, if you guys remember that one. As there's a McLaren of Chaos Druid into the wall on lap 1. And that is going to be a virtual safety car. Chaos Druid just got on the throttle a little bit too much there around turn 14 and 15. Bubbers as well with no front wing will be going into the pit lane. But Chaos Druid with him sat in the car. It looks like he's going to be okay. Doesn't look too much of damage. But early leave out of this race for Chaos Druid, as I would normally say he would hit the showers a little bit early. Looks like he's practically already having a shower at this point in these sort of conditions.
He is, yeah, and also just to point out, a lot of drivers have moved up the spaces. Mellow Spaced has moved up 6 places on that lap 1, so a great start for the Red Bull driver. Also, both Kevo and Spectre have moved up 5 spots. But unfortunately, the biggest faller of this race so far is Barbara's down 11 places due to that front wing loss.
Very unfortunate from him there. Was lucky that the VSC came out so he can actually get a little bit of a pit stop. But no. Spectriv is hit with a virtual safety, drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car. So that is going to be very unfortunate for that man right there. I'm now looking at Panda Man, who is right on the tail end of Light Sesso. And let's actually see the spray coming off of Light Sesso down towards the DRS straight. Of course, in these wet conditions, no DRS being enabled, but you can actually see the rain coming down hard now as these drivers make their way down towards turn 14. And you can see the spray initiate now as they go into off to the racing line just slightly. But honestly, gotta love to see the battles. We also see Domore on Monster, but Domore backs out of it there. And Monster still holds on to P5. Them two have been going having a good battle since the start of the race. Same goes to Panaman and Light Sesso. But Guitar Man Khan and Craigie just levels against these other drivers. As start of lap 3, Guitar Man Khan still leads the way.
He does, yeah. And he's pulled out over a second gap now on PLR Craigie. As Light Sesso and Panda Man have a bit of a battle there in turn 1. There's Light Sesso around the outside of Panda Man, but I think he's now going to get the inside of him. And he does. Light Sesso back in front of Panda Man. So
that's an amazing overtake there.
Yeah, it was a great overtake, great racing there. Will Panda Man fight back? No, he's going to sit back. I think he's probably going to try and get the DRS on Light Sesso because there's no DRS, my apologies, being a bot. He may try and just get in the slipstream of Light Sesso and try to overtake him on that back straight.
Well, let's
Oh,
see
he's
how
there for
they.
the brain fart.
Yep. I mean, hey, I have ton of them. Come on now. Don't need. Oh, but look at Mason
Yeah.
and Paige now going side to side. Paige trying to stick her elbows out. Of course, always starting at the back of the grid. Would in these wet conditions would have rather started at the front of the grid, but Paige as always starts at the back, makes a lot of positions, have good battles every race that she does. But now has Mason in her halo view practically, as we now see Dalmore has a little bit of an incident down towards turn 13 as he spins off a little bit, loses to Mellow Space Mark 7 as well, as Mellow Space tries to break the slipstream. Mark 7 with the look at the top speed of Mark 7, god, oh, that Aston Martin, as he's able to get 2 car lengths ahead practically into turn 14. So it looks like Mark 7 God using a bit of a higher end speed, higher top speed on his setup. Mellow Space using a bit of a more downforce setup as he's gaining in the turns here. But which one would you prefer actually at this track? Would you prefer the downforce or would you prefer the top end speed at this track?
Definitely higher downforce, especially in that middle section, because you can pretty much, if you can nail that middle sector, you can gain like so many tenths, and then you lose like 0.1 on the straight. But having the higher downforce to counteract, you know, it's to counter that a lot of the twistier sections of this track, which it is predominantly twistier sections. So personally, I would go for a higher downforce because you can nail these sectors.
Oh, what happened to Spectre?
Wow.
Do you see that on the map?
No, I did not.
Look on the map. Spectre completely off the track around turn 1 into the wall there. You can actually see his car just stuck against the barrier. Must have seriously mistimed the braking zone there.
That's very, very strange how we ended up over there. And that's brought out a safety car actually. It's interesting that the Virtual was only brought out for Chaos's car when his one was virtually right next to the track. Whereas Spectrum's is quite far off. Spectrum's car's in the parking lot, whereas Chaos's was right on the side, so bit of a strange one there from the game, but
well, I mean, there might be some sort of, he might have actually had a little bit of a collision before he actually got into the wall, maybe, so there might be a little bit of debris, but we're gonna have to check back with him there. I'm not too sure exactly what happened there.
Very, very strange. I can keep an eye and see if he's gonna say anything about what happened there, but very, very strange. I'm sure we'll find out at some point what happened there.
Yeah, not entirely too sure what happened there, but now with the safety car coming out, of course with the intermediate conditions and the rain still coming down, I don't think anyone on the front, on like the front 10, will go into the pit lane right now on a new set of intermediates.
No one will go because those intermediates will bed in after a few laps, so they'll be a bit more comfortable on these intermediates now. Actually, I think so. Nobody's going to pit at the moment, especially with the rain pouring for an estimated 30 minutes, I believe. So.
Oh, and we have just received word in the chat actually, Ricardo Cruz, saying that his wheel actually disconnected from the car mid-drive, so he couldn't do anything with the wheel, so he couldn't control the car anymore, and it went straight into the wall. Hopefully he's okay. That must have been a heavy hit. But yeah, Orbs, welcome, my man. 25 people watching back at home. If you guys are just queuing in, welcome to Prospects eRacing League, as we're here for PlayStation Tier 3, Round 7 of the Chinese Grand Prix. We've had a virtual safety car and now a full safety car after a huge mechanical failure with with Spectrum, as he goes flying into the parking lot of Turn 1. Very, very unfortunate there, but that's actually going to give Bubbers a huge benefit, as he is now behind everyone by over 26 seconds off of the leader, and he's actually going to make up quite a bit of gap now, as Chaos Druid is in the chat as well. Welcome, my man. Very unfortunate with the crash, but good to see that you're okay, Chaos. Wow, yeah, Spectre saying that his fan attack turned off out of nowhere, so a huge mechanical failure for Spectre, as he is now going to be sharing a seat with Chaos Druid back in the garage. But if you guys are just queuing in and you guys didn't actually know, a little bit of a fun fact of actually about this track was that the budget that went into this track, chappers, is absolutely extraordinary. The builds at the cost of almost 500 million US dollars. The Shanghai
Wow.
International Circuit is located on the outskirts of Shanghai, one of the largest cities in the world with a population of over 24 million, where the circuit was designed by Herman Tilke, who has been responsible for a lot of the post 2000 year Formula One tracks, where it was built on a reclaimed marshland as well, where the first race was here back in 2004, and won by Rubens Barrichello in a Ferrari with a capacity of 200,000 spectators as well. And
Wow.
that's, I mean,
A
hey,
lot.
if you use 500 million for you better have that sort of attendance, like, you know what I mean?
That's a lot of people at one venue. A lot of
Absolutely,
people at one venue.
absolutely extraordinary. Where the Shanghai circuit was the largest of the Formula One calendar, but after drawing its access to this number for the inaugural race weekend of 2004, attendances have been reached capacity since and are now approximately around 140,000 since 2019 as well. Of course, Formula One haven't really, the Chinese Grand Prix hasn't really been in Formula One due to the pandemic of COVID-19, where we actually saw this season the return of the Australian Grand Prix at Melbourne. So I think we could potentially see the Chinese Grand Prix come back in later years, as there's talks about a renewal of 2025. So we're gonna have
Yeah.
to wait a few years on that one.
Yeah, but I know this. I don't think China is on the next game, so this is almost as the tier one commentators said on Monday. It's almost like a little bit of a farewell sort of round to the Shanghai circuit. So
Yeah,
well,
and it's,
farewell for now, shall we say? Because we could see it return at some point in the future. But
you know what I
certainly
think they might do
we won't be
actually.
seeing go on.
I think the Chinese Grand Prix. I think what Formula One might do. We've seen like DLC tracks, like in this year was Imola and Portimao for the Portuguese Grand Prix. We might actually also see this being a DLC track on the next one, as we just see Dom Moore hit with a 5-second time penalty for a collision with Vintage under safety car conditions. But yeah, I think it's definitely up there in speculation, but that's all it is at this point. It's just speculation. We don't entirely know for certain what the plan is. But the safety car is now in this lap. Guitar Man Khan can go whenever he feels. Craigie right on the tail end in the Red Bull as Guitar Man Khan goes on the throttle, leaves Craigie a little bit drowning on the track a little bit with the amount of spray that he's splashing onto that visor, but leading around lap 7 by 8/10. That's a good restart. And look at Monster. He's been caught off with his pants down. Look at that. He's behind Panda Man by 3 seconds.
Great start on that safety car restart for Monster, and he's actually unfortunately picked up a penalty at some point. Didn't quite see when that popped up, but yeah, he had a great restart, and he's now hopefully going to be able to bridge the gap. He's using his battery a little bit here now, just to try and bridge that bit of a gap, and he's run a little bit wide there.
Yeah, it's just that corner for him. I don't know what it is, but turn 6. No, not turn 6. Sorry, turn 5. It's just no, it is turn 6. Sorry, Justin. Have more confidence, mate. Turn 6. Very difficult for him as he mistimes the braking zone multiple times actually. In qualifying, also here in the race multiple times. Still trying to learn the track, I do believe, and I think that's what a lot of these drivers actually do coming out on the track. The first few laps they go a little bit easy, they try to learn the track again, and then when it comes down to when it matters at the end of the race, they go all out, they stick their elbows out and try to push through the competition. But so far, Qatar Khan and Craigie, comfortable leads for them so far.
Yeah, for sure, they've pulled out a good little gap now to third place of Light Sesso. Also, they did that before the safety car restart as well, but Light Sesso's got Panda Man to deal with, so the top 4 are in two little groups themselves.
Panda Man almost crashes into the back of Light Sesso, mistimes the braking zone there a little bit for him, as he almost went into the diffuser practically. But now Dalmor and Keva were going side to side down towards turn 14 and 15. We also see Bubbers and Mason having themselves a battle. Mason has to yield off of the track as Bubbers and him had himself a little bit of a scrap down towards that corner. But now you can actually see we have battles all over the field here, chappers, and that's what I was predicting from qualifying. Just seeing how close the times were. Now look at where we are on the grid. We have a battle for the lead. We have a battle for the podium position of P3. We have Monster battling out with Mark 7 God, Mellow Space and Vintage. Then we have a four-way battle with Kevo down towards Page. Battles all over the field here, ladies and gentlemen. We might have to do two streams.
I just saw Mason have a bit of a huge moment there coming around someone. He had the rear step down, he just drifted that round and he lost a bit of time, to be fair, as he's now got Artistic right on his tail now after that bit of a moment.
Well, let's see if...
through and I saw that huge little drift he just did there to save the car. And very, very good save there from Mason, because he could have spun around there.
Well, one person that we're actually seeing a close battle now is between Villeneuve and Dalmor, as Dalmor is actually struggling to keep up with Kevo now. Kevo is actually able to make a little bit of a gap here, as we have a yellow flag, and that's going to be Mason. You predicted it earlier, a little bit of a drift from Mason, who now has lost his front wing in the Haas. He has Nikita Mazda spinned it on the track, and now luckily still in this race. Now we're seeing Villeneuve and Dalmor going side to side down the long straight towards turn 14. Dalmor will now be having the slipstream. He's got to look not only for Villeneuve, but also Paige. He's looking on the inside. Is she going to make the move? She was eyeing it for a second there, but decides to yield. But look at Villeneuve. Goes really wide on the exit. Opens the door completely wide open for Dalmor, as he's now around the outside and now up into the top 10.
Well, I mean, I have to say apologies to Mason there, because I definitely commentators cursed in there, so I sincerely apologise there for that one, Mason.
Mate, that's just part of the job description, mate. That's just what we do.
Oh yeah, we have to implement that.
Oh yeah, we have to. We have like a deck of cards with like all of the drivers' names. We're like, okay, well, him going to the fire, he's gonna crash out. Him will go to the side. He's gonna have a little bit of crashes. You know, of course.
He's gonna lose some front wing.
He's gonna lose some front wing. They're gonna have their rear tire crashed out.
There goes a puncher.
There goes a puncture. There goes everything of the sort. It's gonna mess. Their race is gonna look very promising until a safety car. We have all the, but great power has comes great responsibility, chappers.
Yeah. But yeah, this race seems like it's gonna be quite long for the drivers as well, as it's already only lap 9 of 28. So it certainly feels like it's gonna be a very long-winded race there for the drivers, especially. Oh,
I have noticed something. I just noticed something. The rain has stopped. The rain has stopped. The track is still wet, but the rain has now stopped here, ladies and gentlemen. So we could be seeing a dry end to this race potentially. Of course, predicted by the weathermen and women in the chat. Thank you so much about that. But now look at this battle here. We're seeing Villeneuve and Dalmor go side to side. We're also seeing the two Mercedes going side to side. Oh, and Dalmor actually backs out of it. He actually had the move completely done, and that's going to give Bubbers the opportunity to go side to side with him. It could be a double overtake into turn 14 for Bubbers around the outside, and he's able to move up into P11, and he's now going to eye down Villeneuve as the track gets a little bit drier. We're going to find a little bit more grip, but that's also going to be catastrophic for the drivers actually here, as the temperatures of those tires are going to be skyrocketing at this point.
Oh god, yeah, I think we'll maybe have it in 2 laps time, would you say, where the DRS could be enabled?
I'm gonna say 3 actually. I'm gonna give it a little bit of an extra lap. I'm gonna say 3.
Yeah, maybe 2 or 3 laps time. I'll say we may start to see some of the drivers begin to pit.
We're gonna have to wait and see. But one person that has had a quite lonely but also dominant race. Look at Qatar Man Khan leading against the Drivers' Championship leader of Craigie by over 2.8 seconds at this point, coming around turn 13 now. And I think this is where we could definitely see some incidents out on the track right now, actually, because with it actually coming a bit drier, they're on a intermediate compound. Those tires are going to be overheating like crazy. They could start having a little bit of oversteer, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that, actually, chappers. But
Yep.
these drivers, they've done their homework practically at this point.
Yep.
10 laps, they've already finished their homework with like a C minus, we'll say. As now we see Page actually make the move of Dunmore. Dunmore's just losing time and like positions after positions here as he's really struggling to keep the pace now. And you can actually see these drivers actually trying to cool down their tires on the extra bits of water on the track as Mason has spun around again on turn 6. So he's really struggling here tonight. Was trying to look to get a little bit of a up, and there he goes on the grass. He's going to be turning into a lawnmower at this point. Oh man, you gotta feel for him. He's really struggling.
Sure,
I actually feel a bit guilty just having this on the screen. Like,
yeah.
I feel so bad for him right now. Like, he is really struggling out there. You can actually see just trying to put the foot down on the throttle.
Tires are gonna be cooking.
Oh, you can actually see. Oh, there he goes again. Oh man, I'm sorry, Mason. Yeah, well. At least he was able to yield and respect the blue flags on the field, but very unfortunate there from Mason. You gotta say, very unfortunate there.
Gotta feel for him.
But let's see this now as we actually have quite a bit of a helicopter view of Guitar Man Khan. I think you're actually right. 2 laps might have been right. I think we could be close to a dry race here tonight. Like we could be dry like right now, practically.
Yeah. Is that rain I see still spitting on Mason's camera I just saw in that section that they're coming through now?
Oh no, that's just a little bit of spray, of course. So it's still a little bit wet.
A bit of spray, yeah.
Yeah, it's still a little bit wet on the track, so they're still going to be pulling up as much water as possible. But I think it's actually around that time where we could be seeing some drivers go into the slicks. And if I would say anyone, first person would be Mason. Like, he has nothing to lose and everything to gain at this point. And right as there, DRS has been enabled. So now is lights, none of the top 4 see that. Panaman is going to be the first one. Now, if you were Panaman...
the top 3 really, they just turned through the final corner and then DRS was enabled, so...
No, I got a good question for you, actually. I got a good question for you. What do you think would be the best plan here? Go in a set of mediums to end the race? Do you go in a set of hards to end the race? Because we have 16, almost 17 laps to go.
Hards, probably.
Well, Panaman's going to follow that. Monster's going to go in a set of mediums, so he's going to be a little bit quicker on that. So we're going to have to actually check out on this. But if you guys are just queuing in, we are now in dry conditions at the Chinese Grand Prix here for round 7 of the PlayStation Tier 3 of prospects. So welcome everyone from around the world. Oh, and Monster goes into the wall. Looks like the track is still a little bit greasy for those set of slicks as he now spins off around turn 2. And from what I was reading earlier, oh, and he has front wing damage. What I was reading from earlier, is this actually his birthday race?
Yesterday was his birthday, I believe.
Well, guys, back at home, show this man some love. Show some love for Monster. Say happy belated to you, Monster. I hope you have a good race. Unfortunate with that spin just then, but you still have plenty of racing to go. Keep your head down. Well, keep your head down on the track. Keep your head up, mentally, of course. Yep. Like keep those. I'm having a serious brain fart here today. Oh, look at the overtake on Kevo! Woohoo! Turn 9 and 10. That's a very difficult spot to make an overtake there. But Kevo,
softs, which is very interesting.
Well, he's gonna have to make another stop.
Yeah, for sure, because those by lap 20, 21, those tires are going to be shredded.
Yep, and we're now seeing the top 5 go into the pit lane now.
Craigie on softs.
Yeah, Craigie's on the softs as well. Interesting call here. Very interesting call, gotta say.
Very mixed opinions on what tire to use. A lot predominantly going for the medium.
Oh, Panaman squeezes like Cesso on the pit exit there, almost having a collision. But Panaman's able to pull the undercut and move up into P3 there. Sorry to cut you off there, chappers.
No problem at all. As I was saying, a lot of drivers going for different strategies there on those slick tires. I did run the mediums. I actually ended up two-stopping because of a safety car in Tier 1. But those mediums will feel lovely for the first few laps, but then those hard runners, they'll come into play near the end of the race because those hards will still have a little bit more life in them with a few laps to go.
Yeah, I think the right call actually would be the set of mediums. I think that would be the right call actually here.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, because if you really think about it this way, with the mediums to the hards, the mediums really is like you will gain a lot of time on the mediums than the hards. That's just common sense. But it's really gonna come down to the strategy to where with the amount of laps that the hards outpace the mediums, how many laps is that compared to how much the mediums gain? And that's where you really make the decision. Because those mediums can last the rest, but they're going to be really screaming out in pain.
Yeah, they are. It just depends how your knowledge of the drop-off and how much time you're going to be losing each lap compared to those hards. And that's kind of what you need to weigh up, really. But, you see now we will see lap times tumbling with fastest laps now that they've all jumped onto those slicks and the track is virtually dry now. So we will see lap time we go at 36. We've just seen from somebody, so the lap times will tumble now as they get back out on track.
Yep, and we're actually on board right now with Kevo, who is right on the tail end of Mark 7 God right now. And with those set of softs, he's looking to make the move as early as possible. And he's actually holding on to the ERS even through the corners here. So he's giving it everything that car has to the limit. So he's really testing it out as they're making their way towards turn 6 now. Mark 7 God is doing an exceptional job to hold off the soft runner of Kevo. And I think... Yep. I think now we're gonna be seeing those soft runners and those what is it called? Not the soft runners, the dry setup runners, like really punch it out here. Because I think what would be the best plan that I think Guitar Man, Con, and Craigie did at the start of the race, they actually bumped up their front wing a little bit so they can get a little bit more grip on those set of intermediates. Then when they came into the pit stop, they adjusted the front wing down, like the downforce of it again for the set of slicks. So I think that might have been what would have happened here tonight. But looking now, let's see how powerful this DRS is. It's going to cover half of the 1.2 kilometers straight. But now Kevo with no ERS whatsoever as Villeneuve is into the wall